Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of the Syphon Filter 60 to 1 mission ranking. This is going to be missions 30 to 1 in my ranking. If you missed the first part, be sure to check that one out so you're all caught up. And without further ado, let's get right into the action.
Leon? Leon, do you copy?
Syphon Filter 3's second mission attempts to show us the very first cutscene that we ever saw in Syphon Filter 1's intro. In this mission, Gabe Logan and Leon Zing find themselves in Costa Rica, attempting to stop Roma's drug production and rescue Ellis. The mission of course takes a little bit of a turn and we basically get a recreation of that opening cutscene. There is a slight continuity error in the fact that Gabe Logan isn't wearing his usual outfit from that game, but I do prefer his combat fatigues here. Anybody that's played GoldenEye will probably feel right at home in this level, as it does feel quite inspired by that level, even with the turrets. The level itself is quite fun, and there's plenty of objectives to keep the player busy. I do find that it can be quite a confusing map level design, which is a common problem I have with Syphon Filter 3, and the mission is kind of, for all intents and purposes, a big circle, so it's easy to find yourself going back on yourself. But other than that, I really enjoy this level. Not a bad one. This level takes us back to the 1980s, and here we control Leon Zing as she takes on the Soviets, while also getting assistance from her newfound partner, Gabe Logan. I wonder if they'll last together as a duo. This level, I have to say, is quite brilliant with its location. The atmosphere is fantastic, and you really do feel like a lone operative up against this far superior Soviet outfit. The mission objectives are pretty standard, with you sabotaging Russian military equipment and retrieving a stolen weapon, which actually turns out to be the AUG, which can shoot through walls. You've also got the simple task of eliminating a few snipers hidden around the map. It's a great open-ended space, and sometimes I can find it a little bit difficult to navigate, as with many things in Syphon Filter 3, but this one is a much better on this side. It feels much more closer to Syphon Filter 1 and 2. It's an excellent level and one I really enjoy, and that AUG that can shoot through walls makes the level always worth playing, even through some of its minor frustrations. Unfortunately, this one is the weakest of the bunch, mainly because you've got to escort a pregnant woman and an annoying teenager out, which gives it minus points already. The setting of the underground bunker itself is kind of the typical dark area, and on PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games that never really translated that well and could lead to just a grainy picture, and so the overall look of this level is nowhere near as good as the previous two, with the whole compound itself. Still, this level is quite enjoyable, as it is just still the core gameplay mechanics that we love in Syphon Filter that you're either on board with or not. There's not much else of the same level other than the fact that you are trying to escape and escort these two people out of here. It has some exciting moments where you can get ambushed, but don't expect anything great or new other than that. But still, it's a fun level, and because it relies solely on the excellent combat, it gets lots of positive points, hence why it's so high on the list. Algier Prison Escape takes all that stealth and tension energy that it had in the level just before it and just lets it explode in an awesome action set piece. This level is quite scripted and on rails, and a very directed experience that was quite unique for the PS1. It's an unbelievably great sequence, and it's just balls to the wall action, and Syphon Filter 2 does that so well at times, including right here. The end sequence in particular, where you have to run away with Gregorov and just avoid all the gunfire and run past the towers, sticks out really clear in my mind. I don't want to show too much of this level, and it's hard one to describe as there's not much more to it other than that, but playing this level is just an absolute joy, and you're constantly sweating on edge and just loving every minute of the action. A superb level. Hotel Fukushima is one of the few levels that I have a lot of nostalgia for when it comes to Syphon Filter 3. This is due to the fact that I didn't play Syphon Filter 2 and 3 until much later after the first one. This level is the first one of Syphon Filter 3 and is actually really good and sets a tone that I wish the rest of the game followed. In this level, Gabe Logan is recalling a tale of when he had to assassinate a leader of a foreign power. Gabe Logan's donning a white tux here and looks very much like Sean Connery at the start of Goldfinger, so it gets lots of bonus points for that. But the real crux and greatness of this level is the moment where you perform the assassination. It's just a great set piece where you're under fire with your sniper rifle, taking on all these Chinese operatives trying to fire back at you. It's honestly just superb, and it's the big standout moment of the level, and it's one that always makes me think of Syphon Filter 3. It's an iconic imagery from the entire franchise, and even when I watch films like Skyfall, I can't help but reminisce a little bit about this level. And also, the thing that you've got to remember, this level is always worth playing just to hear Gabe Logan say arigato.
Arigato. Mara onto the train. She's headed toward the engine car.
And here in number 25 we have the level that ends it all, the DC subway, the last level of the PS1 trilogy. And it's on a train, so that you already know that this level is going to be pretty awesome. Levels on a train are always good. Look at Gears of War, Uncharted 2, and Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow. While I don't always think of this level when thinking of trains, this level is always a joy to play, and it's a fitting end to the great trilogy. Of course, a great thing of it being a full circle, as this is where it all began with the very first level, which will come up later. The level objective is simple: stop Mara Oromov from getting to the main lines before she releases the virus. Again, similar to that very first level. And it's what you'd expect from a train level. You move from cart to cart and taking on enemies as they come. And you finally have to take down Mara Oromov with your handy AUG firing through the wall weapon. You never know why it can do that, the AUG, but it's just awesome in this game, and it can. And it's a fitting climax to an excellent trilogy on the PS1. Not much more else to say other than that, and the fact that it's awesome. Now we're getting to some levels that I hold in really high esteem. And here we have these silo access tunnels. This level kind of holds a special place in my memory as a kid because it was always a level that I got stuck on and I could never beat. And it's funny to play it now as I can get through it pretty easily, obviously, at my adult age. This level is similar to the sections that come before it. It's just all out action. This is the end game for the Syphon Filter 1, and you really feel it. You read in the mission briefing that you can't get in touch with NATO, you really feel all on your own, and you've got to stop the world from going to hell before Roma launches the missile. The game really plays on that, and the music in particular is great down here, and it really does bring it all to a head, and you do feel like you're coming to the end of this epic adventure that Syphon Filter 1 presents. The level's simple, just navigate your way through the tunnels. As I mentioned before, in the missile silo, it kind of looks a bit like the caves in Tomb Raider to me for some odd reason, but obviously it's a very different setting to that. There's no dinosaurs here, just men with flat jackets that can withstand a lot of bullets. Great level, and one I hold in high regard. Here we have the last level of Syphon Filter 2, and it is possibly the shortest level in the game. It's a boss fight, you against an opponent who is decked out in full body armor, so headshots will not do here. Neither will gas grenades like with Roma in the first game. It's quite a puzzle of a boss really, there's only one way to beat him, and it's kind of involving the environment. It's a really, clever, unusual way of dealing with a boss. It probably feels a bit inspired by Indiana Jones' Raiders of the Lost Ark. And you get to use the awesome USAS 12, which is this beast of a shotgun, to push him back and push him into the rotor blades to get the kill. It's a fun little end to an excellent game. Base escape brings an end to my probably favourite section in the entire trilogy, the sequence in Kazakhstan at Roma's base. Base escape is a very short level, you have only 3 minutes to do it, so you can't take any longer than that. And it's a level that's quite simple, get the hell out of there before it all gets blown to hell. And other than that, there's not much to say. You're running through areas that you've already previously snuck through, and so you get a different look at it as you're heading backwards essentially, and it's just another one of those sequences that is all out action, similar to the Algae prison escape. One of the fun additions that you get by playing this game on the PS4 and PS5 is there is a trophy for doing this level without shooting any enemies at all, so having that trophy there has actually added quite a fun challenge to this level that I already enjoyed. Really enjoy this one, despite its short length. Colorado Interstate is possibly one of the most scripted levels in the Syphon Filter trilogy, but despite that and the potential for lack of enjoyment due to it being a very directed experience, this is an excellent level. And that's due to the fact that the set pieces or the directed sequences it put you on are just top quality. In this mission you're working with your buddy Chance to get basically away from the agency that's hunting you down and has been since the start of the game. Here though, you've got a variety of objectives, mainly getting Chance escorted through. You start low on ammunition, and there's all kinds of variety of objectives. The level gets huge bonus points just for letting you use a flamethrower like Anton Gdu and burning some enemies, which is pretty awesome and pretty gruesome. There's also an excellent sequence where you've got to sneak past enemies in the dark, which always adds a bit of tension, as you never know if they can quite see you and you have to get quite close to get past them. But yeah, this level's awesome, highly deserving of a high spot. If you somehow weren't aware of the danger that fire poses in Syphon Filter 1, then you're going to learn pretty quickly in this level. It's another timed one with Warehouse 76 where you've got 15 minutes to escape a burning and crumbling warehouse. This level's full of all sorts of awesome set pieces that again, I think wouldn't look out of place in an Uncharted game, and in fact the level does remind me a little bit of the escaping the villa in Uncharted 3, particularly with the way how the fire works and everything's crumbling around you. Obviously this game doesn't quite have the fidelity of a game that would come out many years later. This level's a fun one, it's another short one, and it's just awesome, and figuring out how to escape this warehouse is quite the challenge. Each time you play it, I can always get a little lost in this one because there's many different routes, and you've got to do a lot of quick thinking to escape this burning warehouse, to find yourself in the missile silo. Great level. Colorado Mountains is the very first level of Syphon Filter 2, and it makes it clear, like most sequels, the scale is going to be bigger and supposedly better. It's a great first level for Syphon Filter 2. Similar to the very first level of Syphon Filter 1, you've got many different sort of routes you can go down. Usually it tends to be just one or two routes, but the player's given that little freedom of choice and plenty of room to explore, and most importantly room to breathe. You're given quite a few minutes before you meet the first enemies, which turn out to be the agency that you were working for in the first game. You get introduced to all sorts of new little features here, and the importance of exploring is shown by finding some hidden weapons that could be very useful in this level. The main mechanic that you get introduced to is their new headshot feature. Headshots were very important in the first game to downing an enemy straight away, but in Syphon Filter 2 and then future installments, enemies are going to have the same feature and they can do it to you, and you'll find that out very quickly at the end of this level. A great addition to the series.
Clear!
Militia Compound features near the end of Syphon Filter 3, and it very much resembles Waco, which was a facility and a major disaster incident in the mid-90s in America. It's very reminiscent of that, and the design feels very similar. And that's essentially what you're trying to do here when you're working with essentially what is the FBI. Trying to invest, you're essentially after somebody who basically is similar to a bit of a nut that would have been running the Waco compound. And while it evokes that kind of imagery, it's just good to play a level that's more urban based. Syphon Filter 3 does a lot of jungle and desert, bland terrain kind of look, so it's appreciated to come back to a more urban setting, as I just think that it works a little bit better with Syphon Filter's formula. Not much to say about this level other than it is just kind of standard Syphon Filter fare, but it's one of the much better levels in Syphon Filter 3, and due to that it gets quite a high ranking on the overall list.
Leon, something's up. Bacon's moving. I'm going to follow him.
By this point, you've already seen all the other levels that feature in the Farcom Expo, but for the best one of the bunch, I have to go with the very first level that features there. This is the first time you move location in Syphon Filter after the excellent Washington opening sequence. This level is the first time that you have any kind of forced stealth in Syphon Filter, and due to that, your first time through on this level might be more frustrating than enjoyable, as it is trial and error. You have to get it right, and enemy spawns can be a bit unusual and difficult to get used to. But once you've finally followed Farcom for enough, the game will let you have a quick boss fight and then it's all out action. Navigating through the Farcom Expo is a lot of fun as it's a very different setting, and it's great to play as Gabe Logan in a tuxedo, reminiscent of kind of a James Bond look. Something that also Metal Gear Solid would do with the tuxedo unlock for Snake in that game, so heavily inspired by James Bond in both cases for the franchises. Navigating the expo is awesome, and trying to find out some of the puzzles and how to get by are also a lot of fun to do. It's a great level and one I've got huge nostalgia for, and I just can't get enough of this level. Volkov Park is part of the excellent Moscow section in Syphon Filter 2. This level has atmosphere in absolute spades. It's a superb level, the snowfall helps add so much, but this level's great for variety and some really awesome moments. There's moments where you're going to be taken by surprise as a bunch of enemies rush you while crossing a bridge, and there's a great sequence where you can employ a bit of stealth as it's quite dark in this park. It's a great level, which despite its nature, which is just a simple tailing an enemy, it really stands out head and shoulders. Great atmosphere here, great level.
I'm in the bunker. I'll catalog the missiles and then head for the elevator to the roof.
Base Bunker is just pure action. It's quite a short level, but it's extremely fun. There's a great little Easter egg in here with the armory as well, which unfortunately turns out to be pretty pointless. The combat shotgun is your friend here. This level is full of lots of tight angles, so as I say, the combat shotgun and the SMG are going to come in very useful here. This level has some interesting environmental design with you having to shoot the switches to figure out how to get past the laser grid. The music here is just awesome, and the whole laser grid really adds to a good atmosphere here. Simple objectives with you tagging rockets and simply fighting your way to the top of the tower. Very reminiscent of Metal Gear Solid's Shadow Moses, but that will be shown even more in an earlier level that is to come on this list. I've got a lot of time for this level, a lot of fun, and can't get enough of it.
Recon. I hadn't been in the ATF long, and I was still pretty green, but I knew the areas.
Paradise Ridge is the last time you're going to see Syphon Filter 3 appear on this list, and I think it's done pretty well for one of those missions to reach ranking number 14 on this list, considering the game is, in my opinion, a definite step down from the first two. This level though, I really enjoyed. After playing through Syphon Filter 3 recently, I just couldn't quite get into the game, but when I got to this little section, I really enjoyed it. In this level, you're taking on what we have are these, pretty much these isolationist survival nut jobs out here in America. As I say, similar to the Wacko situation. But this level's awesome. It really evokes those feelings of some of the best Syphon Filter levels where there's lots of different factions going after you are not unsurprisingly betrayed by the people you're working with, but you've also got these nut jobs also trying to shoot at you. You've got enemies coming from all kinds of angles, and Gabe Logan makes a pretty cool appearance as well. Great level and a great setting, especially with the snow. Syphon Filter and snow just go together really well.
I got your location from subvocals. Found some C4 in the chopper.
Now we're on to levels that I pretty much consider to be all 9 out of 10s, and possibly some are even better than that. New York Sewer is for all intents and purposes the last proper level of Syphon Filter 2, as the finale that we've already covered is just a very short boss fight. And this level, oh my, it's awesome. It's really the blockbuster action game of its time. It's delivering set pieces that you wouldn't really see in like a standard action shooter game like this, and probably until like Call of Duty 4. I know Metal Gear Solid was known for having set pieces similar to this, but Syphon Filters always feel a bit more dynamic as they're more just thrown into the gameplay at random moments, whereas Metal Gear Solid generally have a big cutscene and exposition to set those moments up, as great as they were. There's an awesome moment here that I'll never forget the first time I played this game, where I was running through the parking garage and I just got absolutely destroyed by a truck that I didn't know was coming. And it's just those awesome dynamic moments that just keep you playing this game. And while it isn't quite dynamic, as I say, because it is scripted, your first time through is just special. The level starts great with you being in these grimy sewers, but when you soon get into the parking garage and ascending the levels, it's just great stuff. I think games should always try and use some kind of ascension towards their end game, as it really goes hand in hand with the player feeling like they're conquering a game, and it always seems to just make the ending seem a lot more heroic and victorious. Great level, love this one to bits.
Somehow I doubt it. Come on, let's get this vaccine to Leon. On the roof. Get ready for evac.
Metal Gear Solid and Syphon Filter comparisons have been going on since the dawn of time, and while I could do a whole video on that subject, there's no better comparison or example than this level. The fact that you are controlling a stealth operative on top of a communications tower fighting a chopper is literally the exact same scenario that you encounter in Metal Gear Solid 1. Although Gabe Logan has one big difference. He has to do it with a measly submachine gun. Solid Snake at least had 20 Stinger missiles, although it was his brother flying it. Not quite the same here. But Base Tower is an awesome level. The fact that the chopper gets a danger bar almost immediately full before it even appears lets you know that this boss means some serious business. I think the only thing I don't particularly like about this level is the fact that it does drop off a few goons. I think the level is strong enough and the boss itself is a strong enough foe, it really doesn't need it. It doesn't detract from the level though at all, but it just is a minor annoyance that I wish wasn't there. I just love this level, and the say, it's only going to take you about 4 minutes to beat, but if you get caught out in the open, this chopper just shreds you to bits, and that's the kind of danger it should be. You're not going to survive a few hits like Solid Snake. Gabe is fragile, but he has got the wits and the skills to take down this chopper. At least when I control him. Maybe not the same for you.
In 10 minutes, this place is gonna be a crater.
Find your way to the main gate. We'll pick you up there.
It's an abandoned silo. There's an R9 dead Alpha sitting here ready.
I think for a lot of games, the end level is something that can be really difficult to get right, but thankfully Syphon Filter 1 does not suffer from this. This end level, not to put too fine a point on it, is simply awesome. It's constant action, and it's a shame that it's quite as short as it is, but it really does the pace quite right. Just before this, you've had quite a stretch of long levels, and the game wraps itself up before it gets on going too long. I think what makes this end level great is they didn't try and do anything too grandiose, they just made another awesome level. You've got all the frills of what you'd expect from a 80s or 90s action film at the time. Stop the nuclear missile from going off and kill the bad guy. It's simple as that. And while it's not quite a nuclear missile, it's a virus, the plot is simple. It's similar enough for you to get involved. All plot twists are revealed as you expect in the last level, and while it's not quite Metal Gear Solid, there's a little bit of trickery and nonsense from an agency that you'd expect. The end boss fight against Roma is awesome. The fact that he has a constant danger bar just adds so much to tension, and you need to use your wits to maneuver around him and to use the secret weapon that is the only thing capable of taking him down. He's a foe that's been constantly mentioned all game, and taking him down is extremely satisfying. Just on one last side note, I did do a video which talked about the similarities between this level and the no fighting in the war room from Call of Duty 4. I couldn't help but notice quite a few similarities, and I wonder if there was any influence from the dev team. But having said that, this level is very much just a homage to 80s and 90s action films at the time, that Call of Duty 4 may well have been doing the same thing. This whole sequence wouldn't have felt out of place in a Steven Seagal film.
On this disc and your vaccine.
No, I mean, all of this. What's happened here? Markinson's involvement with Fagin, Romer, their plans, the virus.
What's it all mean? I don't know. With Markinson dead, I don't know if we'll ever know.
And here we are, the top 10, what I perceive to be the top 10 levels in Syphon Filter PS1 Trilogy history. And here we are, where I've had to splice it into 2 parts. Now you may have been thinking this whole video there's 60 missions and I kind of cheated with the training video. Well, this is why. These 2 levels, I can't really split them. They're very much just the same thing, it's just been split into 2. And it's awesome, it's exactly what you want. It's a train sequence, and therefore you know it's going to be good, as I mentioned in the DC subway level. This sequence is simple, get to the front of the train. If you've played Uncharted 2, Gears of War, Killzone 2, any game with a train, then you know what the drill is here. But for PS1 game, this is just unbelievably phenomenal. They managed to make the background repeating not look too bad, and remember, this game came out in 2000. And yeah, it would look a hell of a lot better in 2009, but there's a 9-year gap between this and Uncharted 2, and I don't think that in terms of quality playing this now, there's that much in it. In fact, I probably have more fun with this because it's not got the frustration of Nate falling off the train. Gabe is pretty sturdy and the jumping is pretty much automated, so it keeps it simple and easy to work. It's a great sequence, and I love the cutscenes in between. You've probably got the stupidest guard in all of action history, and Gabe Logan even comments on it, and it's just got an awesome sequence where Gabe just escapes in the nick of time, Marcus Phoenix style. Honestly, this level is one that I play just in isolation all the time, and I have featured on the Recall files. I think it's probably one of the best examples of Syphon Filter in all of the games combined. That's why it makes the top 10.
I've got an ID match for Romer on level 1. Gdu is on level 2.
And in 9th place, we have possibly the most iconic Syphon Filter level of them all. The very first one, Georgia Street. I would venture that there's a good chance that opening cutscene opening is one of your best memories of Syphon Filter. And this level just has everything you need from a starting level. You're thrown straight into the action, with the action taking place in the DC subway, which is funny enough where the trilogy will end. And you're immediately given two distinct paths to go, left or right. So straight away the game is telling you, or trying to teach you rather, you're going to have your wits about you, and this isn't going to be a directed on-rails experience. You're going to have to explore, and the player's rewarded for exploring, as you can find a secret rocket launcher, one of the best weapons in the game, really early on. But for the first level, the variety is incredible. You've got you start up on the ground level and finish off rather by avoiding and dodging trains. And it all ends with a great boss fight against someone in a flak jacket, and you just have to defuse a bomb just in the nick of time, or do you?
I'm setting a beacon. Wait. Leon, this one's different from the others. It has a shorter timer, and it looks...
That's not viral.
Too late. Anton Gdu. I hope Romer's paying you enough to die for him.
Easily the most iconic villain and boss fight in Syphon Filter history. The Anton Gdu fight is just simply fantastic. One of my favourite levels. As a kid I used to just replay this one all the time. This is a boss fight, that is genuinely as good as anything in the first Metal Gear Solid. What works well is that the arena is done very well. It's a simple area, it's a simple round circle with Anton Gdu patrolling the middle. What's great is you can tackle this in a number of ways. You can choose to be more precise using manual aiming to try and hit the back of his flame suit, or you can just simply spray and pray. There's enough ammo for you around to do that. But the tension here is great. Anton Gdu will kill you in one hit, as we know. Fire damage is absolutely lethal in this game. It's a great boss fight, and it's no surprise that Anton Gdu, despite very briefly being in the series, gets another mention in Syphon Filter 2.
Teresa, I'm on the screen.
New York Slums is pretty much Syphon Filter 2's big epic last level, and it's followed by these sewers as a sort of great two-parter. New York Slums takes everything good about that opening level of Syphon Filter 1 and just dials it up a little bit extra as a notch. As, while you're on the streets of a normal metropolitan area, the game is able to deal with the whole plot convenience of there being nobody around by setting it in the slum area of New York essentially. What makes this awesome is, once again, like a common theme in Syphon Filter 2, you are a one-man army. The agency's after you, and the NYPD believe that you're a terrorist and they shoot on sight. This gives this level a lot of variety, as there'll be times where you're simply taking on the agency, and other times having to protect the NYPD. The game throws you in lots of different areas, and because a lot of Syphon Filter 2 is more in less urban environments, this is a nice throwback to the first game I always find. Great level. I think even Nathan Drake would struggle to survive the perils that are thrown at Leon Zing here. This level is quite honestly one of the most challenging in Syphon Filter 2 because it throws a hell of a lot at you, but it never gets on, in my opinion anyway, on the frustration level. You're going to have to avoid a lot of foes here as you're chasing Gregorov, and similar to what you're going to encounter later in New York, you're going to have people who are directly after you and also the police who just believe you to be a simple terrorist and will also put you down. This level just has you doing lots of awesome set-piece stuff that is quite unprecedented, I would say, for a PS1 game. There's some great moments where you have to jump from rooftop to rooftop while enemies are shooting at you with dynamic camera angles, which are great, and moments where you have to follow Gregorov at a safe distance and to avoid being blown up by cars. And Gregorov's double has a great habit of getting you with a headshot, so you have to avoid that constantly. There's great moments using the tear gas to get by the police. It's such a superb level, and as I say, you're probably going to die a lot. I certainly did playing this, but it never ever gets frustrating.
Both sides killing each other down there. You should be able to stay.
So here we are, the top 5, and this level was always a certainty to be in there. This level is all out war from Syphon Filter 1. I think it's the only level in Syphon Filter 1 really where you've got two factions going at each other and Gabe Logan is simply in the middle. And unlike sections in Syphon Filter 2, you're kind of ignored for the most part here, and you can choose to just take out enemies as you wish. Don't get me wrong, when they see you, they'll very quickly try and put you down, and at this point in the game, the difficulty is definitely ramped up. But it should be a required law that the player has to use the combat shotgun here. That shotgun is the soundtrack to this level, although it has an unbelievably awesome synth track this level. But that combat shotgun sounds immense, and it's just great fun to use. This level is honestly pretty much perfect. The only reason I don't have it probably as number 1 is I do always find tagging the free viral containers to be quite tedious. One in particular just always eludes me no matter how many times I play this, and it might be harsh to knock the game down for that, because that is totally my fault. But even so, it's just enough of a frustration for me to minus a few points off this level. But yeah, I absolutely love Farcom Warehouse, one of the absolute standout levels of the trilogy. Now we're on to the final 4 levels. These are all levels that I consider to be complete 10 out of 10s. And in Moscow Club 32, it's all about atmosphere. Oh my, what a level. This is a level that, as you can guess, takes place in a nightclub, and so that makes for a lot of close encounters and a lot of shotgun play. The level's got some great enemies, particularly the way they tend to lean out and try and hit Leon, with a lot of headshot enemies, so you can get put down pretty quick. It's a challenging level, but it's just great on the variety. The setting of the nightclub is pretty genius, as it allows for one great section that's involved in the strobe lighting. The level itself doesn't do anything too out there other than just standard Syphon Filter fare, but it does it so well that it just makes... There's basically no frustration here. I think that's what I'm trying to convey. That's why it's so near the top. It's just pure Syphon Filter action, and if you're on board with it, then you're going to love it. C130 Crash Site is the highest level I've got for Syphon Filter 2, and to get number 3 is pretty impressive. Now, to look at this level, you'd think that Gabe Logan had literally landed at the gates of Satan himself, and to be honest with you, that's part of the charm of this level. It really looks hellish, and this level is quite hellish on the player. The agency goons that you're up against are the best of the best. C130 Crash Site comes straight after the train section, and it brings an end to the whole opening part of the game, which extends a hell of a lot longer than Syphon Filter 1's first 5 levels. Syphon Filter 2 really feels amazing for the beginning, and this really brings that great section at the beginning all to a head. It's got a great moment too where you've got to get a quick headshot on the main sort of antagonist of this section before he gets away, which really shows off this incredible fiery hellscape that's behind you. Again, it's nothing too really out there or special or the most varied level in Syphon Filter 2 or any of the trilogy, but it just does what it does so well, and it's kind of hard to describe that without just playing it and having the feel of Syphon Filter and know how it works. But yeah, this level just does everything right, and it makes it Syphon Filter 2's standout level.
Teresa lost radio contact with them an hour ago. I don't think anyone else made it, Gabe.
By this point, it feels kind of redundant to use the word iconic again, but this really is another iconic level. Move aside, Shadow Moses, because Syphon Filter here is challenge you. This level is pure stealth, and while it's not the forced stealth that Syphon Filter 2 would employ, you're not really going to have much of a successful time if you do get spotted in this level. So if you do get spotted, I do recommend restarting it. Honestly, you'll get so much more at this level if you do the stealthy approach. Gas grenades are your friends here, as they can take out enemies silently, and your job here is to basically play sabotage, sneak into the base, plant some C4, and so you can move on with the rest of your objectives. What's good though is you get a bit of variety here. There's going to be a shock moment where a commando comes that you've got to take him out quickly before you're seen, but it really just does stealth action really well. And that's at a time when Metal Gear Solid has come out now, so the standards are really high for it, and this game matches them. And as I say, they probably could have made a whole stealth game with the formula that they set here. While you don't have things like cones of vision or anything that's too obvious or much indication to the player if they get spotted, it's purely line of sight, but you can get a pretty good gauge on it. Yeah, it does fall into the trial and error level a bit too much at times, but it's nowhere near as egregious as what you'd see in Syphon Filter 2. You play much of the standard stealth action formula that you're used to, taking out spotlights, sneaking past enemies and shooting them in the head with suppressed weapons. It's not breaking the mold or doing anything new, but the atmosphere and the music just make it so much better than it probably's got any right to be. As I say, the fact that you can do this level all guns blazing if you want also adds to it, because if you're not interested in the stealth but you just want to take on the enemies mano a mano if you wish, then you can totally do that. But yeah, totally iconic level. Excellent design.
Damn it! Leon, I'm on my way to the park. Have Benton send a team to pick up Mara Aramov. I left her wounded and unconscious in the 5th Avenue tunnel, but chances are she's already on the move.
Copy.
And if he hasn't alerted FEMA, he'd better do it soon. Romer is going to trigger the main viral device whether or not the government meets his demands.
I'm already on it. Did you get any information on the operations in the park?
Tell Jenkins the smaller viral bombs are hidden throughout the park. Gdu has the main one.
Logan, this is Benton. I have a mission redirect. Jenkins' team has been eliminated. I'm putting you on located recon.
Benton, what's going on?
CBDC's getting slaughtered. We need you to track down the viral devices and provide covering fire while CBDC agents come in and disarm them.
Copy that. I'll give them cover as long as I can. Leon, how much time till the main device detonates?
Less than an hour.
Okay, let's do it.
I've set the pickup frequency for you.
Well, here we are then, number 1, and for me it has to be Washington Park. This level to me is quite literally just Syphon filler. That's the best way to describe it. I don't think it's any surprise that the background or foreground of this level is what's used on the front cover of the PAL region disc anyway. So for me it's the first thing I ever really saw when I looked at Syphon filler. As I say, it's the first level I always think of when I think Syphon Filter 1, and to be honest with you, the entire series in general. The unbelievable atmosphere here is just incredible. You really feel like you're in the Washington Park and with the rain really pouring down, and even all these years on from 1999, it still manages to capture that exact feel that it needs. The soundtrack itself, of course, probably doesn't need mentioning, but I'm going to mention it anyway because it's brilliant. The atmosphere, honestly, here is good enough to rival Shadow Moses in Metal Gear Solid 1, and that's also the same with the Roma base. Although that isn't a direct copy, this is its own unique thing. This is Syphon Filter totally on its own. I think what's also good is the level has a 20-minute time limit, and that normally adds for frustration, but here it's great. It adds a bit of tension, but it doesn't add frustration, as it's more than enough time to get everything you need done. Although if you are struggling, it may get on your back a bit and maybe just add a bit of stress that's needed into the vital situation that you're in. The game knows exactly what weapons to give you. The night vision sniper rifle is just perfect, as it just gives that awesome green effect. You may notice that I've used it for the countdown for each number on the missions as we've been ranking them, because I just love this level and it's just the perfect way to show Syphon Filter. The great thing about this level is its variety. While you've also got to disarm these bombs, you're going to have times where you've got to rescue hostages at a tennis court, which is where I've taken the sniping clip from, and there's also a moment where you have to find a sort of person who's using a radio jammer called Kravitz, and you have to take on a quick boss fight. What's also great about this is it just leads straight onto the Gdu fight. Honestly, it's just amazing. My favourite level in Syphon Filter out of them all, and that includes the PSP titles a few years on. I just absolutely cannot get enough of this level, and that's what makes it top of the pops. And I just want to say, if you've made it this far to the very end, then you are, without question, an absolute legend. Thank you so much for watching this video, part of Recall Gaming. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. For my regular viewers, I'm going to be doing a channel update very soon, and that also applies to my new viewers, as it's not exclusive, and we'll line out how the rest of the year is going to finish on Recall Gaming. And I won't discuss too much of it here, as this is very much a Syphon Filter video, but just know, if you've come for Syphon Filter content, then I think the popularity of this video and the one before it has kind of inspired me to do a bit of a playthrough. I think we're going to be doing Syphon Filter 1 and 2. But if you're interested, check out the channel and the future update video straight after this one that will be coming out shortly, and we'll detail everything we're going to do forward from there. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. You are all absolute legends.